Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 410. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
We've done 10 more than 400.
We have. Connor's not here this week.
Hallelujah.
After 2 weeks of him, I'm honestly relieved. It's more than enough for me. We had a 3-hour show last week, again, because the boy doesn't shut up.
He's very detailed, which I appreciate when he does it for his Patreon books, because, it's an extra service. But when it's something that, okay, we just move on, and he's got to get into the details.
I mean, to be fair, I'm just picking on him. I don't really think he's any worse than either of us. But yeah, so that was like, we did have more books last week, to be fair, as opposed to this week where I have almost no books. I had a very light week. Matt's going to be carrying half of this show on his back. The workhorse that he is. So this is a DC Comics podcast, everyone. We get together, we talk about the DC books we read this week. And coming up on today's show, we have Detective Comics 1085. We have The Flash issue 9, Penguin issue 10, Green Arrow issue 12, Power Girl issue 9, and I'll be doing a Patreon book, which is American Vampire Second Cycle issue 8. So that is what's coming up on the show today. But before we get into it, Matt, how was your week?
Oh, really good. Did the move last week, finished enough time so I could do wrestling 2 nights in a row. AEW was in town. So very, very good but tiring weekend. So those shows go long.
AEW shows like 4 hours at a minimum.
They're toying with maybe next year making one of them 2 days like WWE's been doing, and they're like, no, don't, because Tony Khan's a sicko and both would be 5 hours. Also,
aren't WWE doing that for other shows now, not just Mania?
Yeah. They announced that SummerSlam in Minnesota is going to be 2 nights. So I don't know. I don't know where that's at. I don't watch them as regularly as I watch AEW. But I mean, I understand the 2-night thing. New Japan was doing it for a while for Wrestle Kingdom. Get everybody on the show, make a whole big thing about it. But yeah, I don't know if it needs to be every major pay-per-view. Like, imagine the Royal Rumble being over 2 nights.
I guess the argument is that they've got 2 Rumble matches, so they can end both nights with one, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I just,
that'll be next. If SummerSlam's doing it now, then Rumble will be next.
Yes.
No question.
That's, I don't know if I want that. I would be fine with just 2 extended Rumbles on one night. I don't need the in-between matches, Maybe 1 breather match set in between them.
Do you know why they like doing this, right? Mm-hmm. It's because they get to charge for 2 tickets for every person. They get to charge for both nights, effectively separate. I'm sure there's package deals, but they're making a lot more. Because I wonder how much more the rental for the venue is up because they're there an extra night. Because, I mean, let's face it, they get there to set up a few days before anyway. So I wonder how much extra are they paying in rental for the venue versus how much more they're making by charging everyone for 2 tickets instead of 1.
Yeah.
That'll be what they like doing about it.
Yeah. Well, I know someone that went to Mania this year in Philly that, did the package deal. And I think he said everybody that sat around him were, it was almost like a community by the end of the weekend because you're sitting around them for multiple hour stints, So I think, if you're economical minded, they're going to, they're going to make the money off of you regardless. Right. So I don't know. I don't know if I have it in me to watch 2 nights in a row again, though. This was a lot. And I only did I did a TV taping and then a pay-per-view taping. And going there and back, that might be a local problem, too. If you're coming into town and staying down there, I'm sure it's not as big of a deal, too.
Yeah, because then it's like the whole weekend's like a vacation, whereas you're just going there for the night.
Yeah, I had to deal with traffic and parking and paying for parking and, But you do it for the love. Love of this. Yeah, it's not a genre. What would we call it? Art form?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. Sweaty man.
Yeah, that was your week.
Yeah, it was all right. It was kind of. What did I do this week? That's a good question. I was thinking about it now. I mean, obviously, last weekend was Furiosa, which was a blast. So that was cool. Did the review for that. I've been offering kind of like TV reviews, like like the Patreon picks on the comics, like I've got like that for TV shows now. So I had a couple of those to squeeze in before the end of May, because obviously we're recording this on the 1st of June, so the month's just ended. And yeah, otherwise just normal. I had some extra movie recordings, so I was a bit tighter on time, but I was getting ahead in a couple of shows because David had like a weekend where the girlfriend was away for a few extra days, so it was like, oh, let's record extra things. And I'm like, fine. So yeah, my last weekend was sort of a long weekend of recordings, but other than that, the weather's been good. I've been out for walks. I'm a notch tighter on the belt.
Hey, that's a win.
After about a month of consistently walking like 6 days a week. Last few days I've taken a slightly alternate route for a more steeper uphill climb on the way back, which I don't know, maybe I don't know if it's making that much of a difference, but I feel like I'm pushing myself a little bit further.
Yeah, it's getting your heart working, which is good. You know, because you have the incline. So body mechanics and all that other stuff's a little bit different. I've started using the stair stepper instead of the elliptical, and I almost fell down it the other day because I thought I could go one level higher than I could have, and I missed a step. I still would have been falling, you know, like it's like an escalator. So that was I saw my life flash before my eyes.
As you do. Yes. Yeah. I could probably do with a couple of little things to help like exercise during the winter when it's not as easy to go out and walk. I did just decide, though, I want to save up and get a nice big TV because I want an OLED. So that's kind of where the current extra pennies are going.
But, I mean, here's the thing. The real thing of fitness is the equipment helps, but really, as long as you have the willpower, you can do a lot of body weight stuff.
Oh, sure.
Especially if you're not trying to build muscle and just stay fit. You know, push-ups are free. You don't need equipment for that.
Yeah. Maybe a mat, because trying to do sit-ups on a hard floor just starts hurting your tailbone.
A mat definitely would help. I mean, I've carpet, so, you know, I can just plop down. But yeah, during the pandemic, I brought the weights in that, you know, were ancient, and most of the stuff ended up being body weight anyways. So. Oh,
actually, I did bring this up in last week's show, but now that Matt's here, I feel like I should bring it up again. Popeye's chicken's mid. Okay.
No.
It's mid.
What are you comparing it to? Are you comparing it to actual like restaurant quality fried chicken, or are you comparing it to another chicken place?
Like
when I say restaurant quality, I'm talking like a sit down, you go in there like a diner.
No, I mean even KFC's better, if that's what you're asking.
No, it is not. Lies.
No, it's easy as. Easy as. No, everyone was far too salty. It was not good. The biscuit and gravy. I tried a biscuit and gravy, so I've tried that now.
No. That's not the same. Biscuit and gravy is a breakfast. That is a white gravy with sausage in it. Unless you had that.
Well, no, I didn't have that. I had a Popeye's biscuit and gravy.
Yes.
And that was okay, I guess. But even the gravy though, I didn't like that much. It had kind of this like spice to it that I don't.
Yeah, because it's Cajun. So what you have to know too about Popeyes is that they are a New Orleans style, right? So it's going to be a little bit different than KFC, which is more just traditional, you know.
Yeah, and for the record, I wasn't looking for something that tasted like KFC. I was hoping it would be better than KFC.
Oh no. So I don't know. When you say that's all salty, that's usually true with a lot of the sides. A lot of their sides, however, the chicken, it always comes out perfect over here. So I don't know. Maybe that was a skill issue with your local Popeyes. I've never heard of the chicken being salty.
It's entirely possible though that we just differ on what we consider salty.
that could be too. It could be my American palate is just like.
It did nothing for me. I'm glad I tried it just to sort of tick it off, but I will never order from there again.
Did you get the sandwich, or did you do a chicken piece combo?
No, I got chicken piece because chicken sandwiches rely on mayo. I hate mayo.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I mean, you could do theirs without. It's gonna be a bit dry, but you know, in theory, you could do it because we've had a mistake before when they were pumping those out when they first came, and like people were buying them out. They were coming out so much that one of mine had no mayo, and it was still pretty good. You know, but yeah, the thing with Popeyes for me that I like more is it tastes more authentically fried chicken than like KFC. KFC tastes more of that mass produced, I know the whole legend of the herbs and spices, Colonel Sanders and stuff, but KFC the last couple times I've had it, incredibly bland.
All right,
So
for the record, I'm not defending KFC here. I think
Yeah.
KFC is not that great. I love chicken, but I feel like every fast food place or even sit-in restaurant, I'm looking at you, Nando's, you piece of shit.
Every Will Osprey hear you say that.
Every restaurant that focuses itself and says we're a chicken restaurant, I think they're all mediocre at best. Like,
no, I would love to know what you would feel about Cane's, because Cane's is the big one that has the haters and the lovers. There's nobody is just like Cane's is okay, and they're another chicken place. So either you really, really like Cane's, like me and my wife, or you think it's the blandest, unseasoned chicken, like a lot of my friends. And the only thing they'll get from there is the garlic buttered toast.
This is the big red cuisine.
Yeah. What do you mean, big red? What's that mean?
Kane. Matt Kane.
Okay. The big red. He's a piece of... He made a post the other day.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, Glenn Jacobs is a piece of shit.
Yeah,
bro.
he's a piece. So I don't even think when you say kid like that, he's so far out of my mind, it has to run back in and rip the door off the cage of my brain. But yes, I'm never going to tell people if they didn't enjoy something, oh, you got to try it again. However, I'm curious to see if it was a skill issue of maybe someone let the salt get away from them.
I mean, look, for all the recent things that have came to the UK over the last few years, right? Taco Bell is a win, right? Love the Taco Bell, boy. Right? Popeyes, not feeling. Tim Hortons, not really feeling. Like, and that should be easy. It's donuts, but their donuts just aren't that good, right? They're too bready.
Yes. So Tim Hortons and Dunkin' are essentially the same. It's just one's Canadian, one's American. However, the Tim Hortons coffee, and I know you're not a coffee guy, superior. Yes.
Yeah, not for me.
Their donuts were fine. Like it's a donut, but like you're right. There are. Wait, do you like the raised kind of donuts, or do you like the old fashioned cakey donut?
Well, I'm trying to decipher the difference in my head from all the donuts I've eaten.
Yes. So like a raised one is more fluffy. It's like the yeasty kind, versus like an old fashioned, which is very. I don't want to say bready because it's not, but it's more of like a cake. So it's a bit more dense on the inside.
I feel like I like both. But when I say bready, I mean it feels more like bread than it does cake.
Yeah. Right.
So I like because what you're describing there. So I like a dense donut. Sure. I also like a fluffy donut. I think there's good donuts in both varieties, but there's also a crappy thing in the middle where it just feels like bread with a bit of a glaze on top.
Yeah, so I tend to stick away from like glazed donuts, and I'll go with something more. If I'm gonna get like one of those raised kind of fluffier ones, I'll get like a sprinkle, like icing on top and stuff to break that texture. But I'll take like a old fashioned, like a blueberry donut from Dunkin'. Oof. And I got Tim Hortons when we were in Canada, and it didn't measure up. So I admit I'm jealous that y'all have a Tim Hortons, because I'd go for coffee. I would travel far for Timmy's.
Oh yeah, it's close by. It's open shockingly early as well. I guess because they like to serve people go to work coffee.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what will be next. England has Wendy's. I don't have Wendy's, and Cora doesn't have Popeyes. So hopefully we both get to try the other one at some point.
Flop it over.
Yeah. But, there's no Wendy's in Scotland yet.
Yeah. If you couldn't handle the salt on the Popeyes, a Baconator might kill you.
I know. I don't like burgers with bacon on them. I'm a simpler burger man if I'm getting a burger.
There you go. But... you had In-N-Out when you were stateside, right?
Yes.
And you enjoyed it, right?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. If you were saying no, I was going to walk off right now.
No, In-N-Out was good.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Five Guys is good too. It's just vastly overpriced for what it is.
Yeah, Five Guys, you need to have, Five Guys paying for one burger to have it make sense. That place. And they used to get you with the fries, which was fine. They'd overpack the fries. And from what I hear, they don't do that anymore, because at least you feel like you're getting a value. But yeah, someone went recently, I think my brother, and it was like $23 for a meal. Just for a burger, fries, and maybe a drink. I can't even remember if he got a drink.
No,
that's too much.
Credit to Taco Bell, because Taco Bell I think of as ordering as often as I would either a McDonald's or a Burger King. you know, it's clearly outpaced KFC. Now, and that's ignoring the fact that KFC's also gotten overpriced because like now it's extortionate. But
Oof.
like, yeah, these other ones, they were like, I tried them once. It's like, nah, that's fine. Like I can go on my life. Ah, dear. It is boring how most good fast food places are just burgers, but for whatever reason, they're easy to do. So a lot of places do good burgers. So
Yeah. And like you said, simple. Simple tends to be the key when they start, you know, slopping it up with a bunch of stuff. You know, that's why I love In-N-Out as much because it's real simple. And then that's all they have, right? It's burgers, fries, and shakes. So, you know, but yeah, it's out there. Now I want Taco Bell, so thanks for that. Like, I was fine. I wasn't hungry, and then you mentioned it, and, you know, we did pizza and wings last night for dinner instead, and now I'm craving that Taco Bell.
Yeah, I almost got one the other day because I wanted to try. What did they call it? It's basically just loaded nachos, but like there's like nachos El Grande or something like that. They called it.
Nachos Bel Grande,
Bel Grande. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, but the Bell's just a gimmick thing for Taco Bell, though, right? It's not. Yeah.
Yeah. No. They would just be regular nachos, you know, and they're pretty good. They got the beans, they got the sauce, they got the nacho cheese.
A bit of beef. You know,
yeah. So it makes them more than just the typical. Those used to be on the value menu. I don't know how much they are now, because you know I stick to my
definitely
my online special. Menu. You know. Yeah. But yeah, no. Taco Bell is the superior of the places. If I have to pick between the ones that you mentioned, you know, the McDonald's, the Burger King, it's the Bell every time. It depends much to my wife's chagrin.
Yeah, it depends what I'm in the mood for. That's why I like that it's different from the burger places. It's offering me something else.
Did McDonald's ever try the Big Mac wraps? They're trying to get on Taco Bell's corner. So it's essentially the ingredients of a Big Mac, but in a tortilla. They
do breakfast wraps. I don't think they do Big Mac wraps, though.
Yeah, so like this has got to have been 10 to 12 years ago. They tried these Big Mac wraps to try to compete with the outside the bun type thing, and it wasn't good. Part of the Big Mac thing is having that burger and having the bun to bite down into, soak up that Big Mac sauce. So it was definitely different.
I don't get Big Macs because that Big Mac sauce is part mayo, so I ain't touching it. But But a lot of other options.
So no eggs, no mayo.
Yeah, I can't do mayo.
What else do you not?
I don't like mushrooms, but it hasn't really come up as much as far as.
Nah, I don't do mushrooms either.
Yeah, no, that was the other thing with Popeyes. Is like every single dip. There was like barbecue, and that was the only one I could get. Every other one was some type of mayo or some type of ranch, which is also just mayo with a different twist to it.
Did you get chicken strips or whole pieces of chicken?
No, it wasn't whole pieces. That was boneless.
Okay, that's the problem right there. You gotta get the whole piece.
I don't like bone fried chicken. Experience. I prefer boneless.
You like the nuggies. Okay, this would explain why everything was so salty.
No, strips are better than nuggets. Nuggets are as much as they sound like they should be the same, they don't. Strips are always better than nuggets. Nuggets, for whatever reason, of all the variety of chicken that's got a coating that's in bite-sized form, nuggets are by far the worst. Dippers are better than nuggets.
I was raised on nuggets. I'm a nugget boy, so I prefer that to to the strips. But
I've always been of the opinion anyone who goes to McDonald's and gets nuggets over a burger are crazy people. Like, what are you doing? You don't pay McDonald's for nuggets.
What's it say that I do both?
I don't want to be caught fat shaming, Matt, so I'm not going to say what I'm thinking, but
here's the thing. I know I'm a husky boy, but I also put in a lot of time at the gym, so I can kind of eat. That's why I do that. You know, I don't eat McDonald's more than, twice a month at this point. So, we do the Big Mac bundle.
No.
Yeah. Do the Big Mac bundle. Comes with, chicken nuggets. However, Ash had to stop me from trying to eat 50 McNuggets in one go. So I think I could do it. She's a hater and thinks I can't, and I'd be sick, but somebody wanted me to find out.
I think the truth's in the middle. I think you would do it and then be sick.
True.
I think I'm accurate on that, to be honest. I would put money down on that.
Well, again, only one way to find out, and she's threatening legal action if I try. So.
She's whipping out the divorce lawyer and the prenup or whatever she got ready.
Yeah, I'll never forget. We went to one of those challenge places in San Diego on our honeymoon, and they had this big, 12 egg omelet. If you finish it, it's free. You get your name on the wall.
Mm.
And as we're looking through the menu, she goes, "If you even ask, this will be the world's shortest marriage." And I was like, "All right, I know where I stand." A lot younger too. I could have done it. Still maintain. The biscuits would have got me. I'm telling you, that would have been it. But yeah. I just love food. Food is good.
Yeah, I've just probably made everyone hungry listening to this.
Here's the thing. Believe it or not, guys, we usually talk comics.
We do. Also, one thing I'll put out, there's always a bit of a difference between countries, because all I ever hear from Americans is how much they think Burger King sucks, and I'm like, Burger King's actually quite good here. So I feel like there might be a difference in, I kind of regret not getting a McDonald's when I was in the US just to see if it tastes different. Just to
compare.
Yeah, just a little difference. Maybe not necessarily better or worse, but just like, oh, there is a difference. Yeah. There's some, some ingredients illegal in the UK, so the US one tastes just a little bit, to the left.
That could very much be it too, because you guys do have different additives that you're not allowed to use, which definitely shocks me as an American. Like, what are they pumping our food with?
Yeah, the real question. Like, some people might say that's freedom, but other people might say, wait, what are they putting in our food that other countries are banning?
Yeah, or why are they banned? You know what I mean?
Yeah, what's the problem?
Is it is there a political aspect to it, or is it actually bad for us and they're paid to look the other way?
What's this here? Asbestos? That's only lethal if you inhale it. It's fine to eat.
Yeah, you can eat it. It tastes great with gravy. But yes, that is true too. Yeah, for me, Burger King's, I like their breakfast, but their main stuff is kind of mid tier. There's not one close, so we don't go that often. So,
is it true to say about Domino's? Does Domino's get a bad rep in the US?
No, they used to. Now they're if I'm gonna order from a chain and not from like a local place, we go Domino's.
Out of the big three, which is Domino's, Papa John's, and Pizza Hut. Mm-hmm. I think Domino's is the best. That said, though, I don't think it always was. I think if you go back to the mid 2000s, I think Domino's wasn't really that liked here. But something around 2008, 2010, it changed. Like, it shifted to.
So here good. Around, I was still in high school when those commercials came out. So we're talking like 02, 03. They were putting out commercials talking about how bad they used to be. Like, they were reading reviews and stuff. And so they came in and they changed their dough and their sauce and everything. And they've been on the upswing ever since. But so for me in that order, it'd have been Domino's, Pizza Hut, Papa John's.
I think I'd put Papa John's above Pizza Hut, but I think part of that is Pizza Hut's not that bad, but I think because it was the main one that everyone had birthday dinners at when I was a teenager, I got so sick of Pizza Hut to the point where Papa John's just tastes nicer to me because it just has some different flavors to it. That's really it.
Well, and Papa John's have that garlic butter sauce. Dip your pizza in that, feel your arteries clog.
Well, I like. Not that I've had pizza. I've actually still not had a pizza since summer 2019, so I'm doing well on that rule. But Matt's got a shocked look in his face. He doesn't quite understand.
I'm gonna have to eat more to make up for it.
But at least the last time I had a Papa John's, they had like an optional it was like chili flakes they'd put on top, and or the chili powder. That's what it was, not flakes. Powder.
Chili powder. Yeah, most places have the red. The red chili flakes. Those are pretty standard at pizza places. Yeah. So. Yeah. Food.
Subway used to do chili flakes, but they stopped doing them recently, the bastards. So I'm not happy about it.
Gotcha.
Anyway, comic books, right?
Yes, here we go.
Now that everyone's hungry.
Pete ate some Popeyes.
Ah, dear. All right, so we'll start off with the top 10, formerly known as the ComiXology top 10. We'll look at Tuesday and Wednesday's rankings on the Amazon Kindle comic book store. Matt, what's your guess for Tuesday?
I'm gonna guess Detective Comics.
That is correct. I have nothing to add. That was just the obvious answer.
And then if I'm gonna go for number 2, I'm gonna guess Flash.
No.
Wow. Green Arrow? Don't say it's Green Arrow.
Nope.
Okay. Penguin.
Nope.
What? What am I missing? Is it the Brave and the Bold? There's no way it's Brave and the Bold.
Nope.
Pride Special.
Pride Special's number 2.
It's right there. It was down where I couldn't see it. So.
Yep. Number 3 is Green Arrow. Number 4 is Batman Dark Age. Number 5 is Flash. Number 6 is Batman Brave and the Bold. Number 7 is Power Girl. Number 8 is The Penguin. Number 9 is Volume 2 of Danger Street. So we're at single issues. Well, actually, we're back to single issues because number 10 is Harley Quinn. So
I saw something on Harley Quinn that apparently now she can tap into the 5th dimension. And I was like, remember when Harley was just a psychologist?
Yes.
Yeah, like, I don't know what's going on in that book, but, you know.
Yeah, actually, when I saw Furiosa last weekend, I saw the Joker 2 trailer for the first time because I didn't seek it out, but I didn't care.
Yeah, did you throw something at the screen like I did?
No, but, you know, I wasn't...
It looks ungood. Like, I'm not saying it looks bad. It looks like a competently made movie, but it doesn't look like one that I want to watch.
It's just not what I want out of those characters. It's just really that simple.
No.
So there you go. That's Tuesday. You got a guess for Wednesday, Matt?
I'm loading it. I'm gonna guess Rise of Powers of X.
That's correct. Yep. Number 2 is Ultimate Spider-Man. Number 3 is X-Men: The Wedding Special.
Who's getting married now?
I actually have Mystique and
Destiny. Okay, very nice. All right, like they're finally making an honest woman out of each other, I guess. I don't know how that relationship works.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think she asks Mystique to like turn into like various people whenever the mood strikes? Like, hey, tonight I fancy a bit of, I don't know, pick an actress.
I would guess, but apparently, I don't know if you know this, they altered Nightcrawler's origin a bit.
Oh.
In that Destiny's his biological mom and Mystique's biological dad. Because they wanted to have a baby. And now they've written out Azazel, I guess. People are upset. Granted, this is all from Twitter, so people might not have it 100% correct. But yeah, so that was a thing that in the build up to this wedding.
Wait, how is Mystique the biological father? Explain that part to me.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just going off of people being upset. So, yes.
All right, whatever. Number 4 is Wolverine. Number 5 is Avengers Twilight. Number 6 is Midnight Suns Blood Hunt. Number 7 is Black Panther Blood Hunt. Number 8 is Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Number 9 is Helverine, which is the first of a 4-issue miniseries by Perez. I guess that's tying into his Wolverine book. And then number 10 is our only non-Marvel book, which is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers: The Return, which is the one that I think's written by, it is Amy Jo Johnson, and it's about her becoming the new Green Ranger, I think.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, sounds like a neat enough premise. So yeah, definitely Marvel heavy top 10 on Wednesday this week, and it's what it is. But yeah, okay, I don't have much to really add. Other than just like because we don't really pay attention to Marvel that much, when I see the top 10 now, I'm just kind of like, whoa, what's going on over there? There's like Helverine, just all right.
Yeah,
sure. There you go. All right, well, let's get into discussing the actual comics then, shall we? Right. Detective Comics 1085, Ram V writing with Stefano Rafael on the art. This was pretty good. This is, this Batman trying to take control of the city again, sort of the tactics that he's using. We ended the last issue with a cliffhanger of Catwoman going to see Joker, and I quite enjoyed this conversation. Not so much Joker putting a cat in a blender.
No, of course not. But I do like, so in the point of this conversation that they have, right, Selena going to Joker to see, kind of feel him out for what's been going on with Gotham, what he's been doing, and just her being able to call him out like he's not himself. Because when he says that joke in the punchline, she's like, that wasn't funny, Yeah, well,
it gets to the thing that I always like about this kind of moment when they play it, is that she basically leans in and points out, he's back.
Yeah.
Like, Batman's back, and he's going to try and take on like what's changed the city and made it less funny, but he's probably going to fail again. Maybe you would like to ensure that this regime falls. It's just I love this idea of like encouraging Joker to like want to get back to the endless game with Batman, and to do so he has to kind of help out with this other threat that's possible. So admittedly, he's a bit of a wild chainsaw that you can't predict very well. So I mean, it could end up badly for everyone. But
I mean,
I appreciate the intent.
yeah, I like that because they both, Batman and Organ both represent a certain kind of order, right? So on the spectrum, I would say that as much as you see different versions of Batman, he's completely dictatorial. Ram V's Batman's not that, right? He cares very much about Gotham and about the order and preserving his whole sense of justice, right? And then you have the Orgums, which is much further down that spectrum, where they're essentially mind controlling people, right? They have that whole reality engine. They're making people think that Gotham is safer than it actually is, and there's still things going on in the shadows and under the seams, and the fact that Joker just lives to create chaos, and that it's much preferred. He fits in more with Batman's style than this Orgum, right?
Well, this just plays into, again, something we've been saying since like maybe the first arc of this entire run, maybe the second arc, is this idea with this new threat coming in that Batman ultimately is going to be helped by the other characters in Gotham, meaning the villains, right? And we've already seen examples of that, of some of the villains helping Selina, rescue him from the hanging. And we see more of it in this very issue where Batman goes to the Maestro to like help with the music box thing. He goes to Mr. Freeze to get his help for his big plan to try and defeat the Orgums. So it's playing throughout, and Joker, if anything, is the extreme end. I don't think Batman would ever choose to go to Joker, and I think Selina knows that, which is why she's doing it. So I think just playing into this idea that Gotham itself is not just Batman, it's all of these characters, and the Orgums could never have predicted how they were going to fight back against them as like a sort of outside virus. Like, this is the antibodies of Gotham, all, whether or not they're all intentionally doing it in sync, they're going to fight back.
That's a perfect way to look at it, as that, even though the reality engine's going on, these characters are still there. Joker's still there, but he's almost like subdued. And so it just needs something to get Gotham's system back up and running, right? Like the why can't I think of the immune system? There we go. Gets the immune system up and going, and Selina kind of getting Joker and pointing him in a direction as a nice touch.
I mean, hell, even just to go with this metaphor, which I just brought this up because it felt fitting, but now I'm looking at the 2-page spread in the next couple pages. Like, Batman's suit in this issue, the bat symbol looks like blood, and all the veins going out to the cape look like a bodily system. Right? So maybe it's even an intentional. Maybe that's what put the idea in my head to compare it to that in the first place. Maybe Ram V's playing.
Well, and I just love the idea too that like his version of this ultimate order is a form of gentrification, and how like Gotham is always going to push back against that, because Gotham's almost its own wild self, and it's almost pushing against the reality engine. And is you can kind of, Batman's tried to tame Gotham, but it showed him like, I'll still do what I want to do, and it's almost like Batman has an agreement with it, whereas the Orgums are just trying to force Gotham into submission. And now because of Selina and the people that got him out, and Gordon, and now we'll see with Joker, it's allowed Batman to push back again against that.
Yeah. So we see more of the Orgums basically discussing the fact that Batman is back. They don't understand how he's able to fight back against the Asthma. But, the mummy Orgum's going on about how, he poisoned my son's brain, so I had to poison his body. But do we have an indication here of who's in this like coffin with the gold plating over it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so they're basically waiting for someone to wake up as part of the whole plan here. So
it's a little cosmic horror-y again, like they're playing with people's minds while this thing slumbers and it's not quite ready, but they almost have the energy to awaken this. But yeah, it's also kind of, we know where with Ra's al Ghul and his, the whole Lazarus bit, it's kind of like that too. It's almost the opposite version of that, to where it's feeding off, whatever this is feeding off of energy versus, being submerged into a pit. So I don't know, maybe, I have no idea. Maybe it's a like an Asthma given full form. I don't know.
Yeah. So further feeding into something else we've been talking about since the start of this run is the idea of Gordon maybe filling more and more the role of Alfred. Batman brings Gordon to one of his current like sort of mini bases that he's got in like an old like power building or something like that. And he's like, hey, here's some computers, here's these maps of like this various like this is like the subway system, this is the tunnel system, this is like a heat map of Gotham and whatever. But Gordon points out that he seems spry, that he seems like he's in like good spirits, and Batman's effectively like reborn, you know, from his time in the desert. Like he's come back focused, he's come back kind of accepting these like darker elements. And what's the phrase that he uses here? He's like, oh, like my ultimate goal here is now bigger than what my past like dictated. Like he's beyond just sort of like fighting for the fact that his parents got killed.
Yeah, it's now he is a sentinel for Gotham, right? He's fighting for his Gotham, not just, his parents, which I think is a nice evolution of his character.
Yeah. And we actually get a big there's nothing like a good big like Batman's come back to the city, so he's going to like be theatrical about it and show off a big bat symbol. Now we kind of already did it with the explosion in the building that previous issue.
Yeah,
here
he's gonna play the hits.
Yeah. Here, he ties a gas canister to the back of his motorbike, and he drives around, and then he sets it on fire, and would you believe it, he's been so skilled in his driving, he has made a giant bat logo now in fire on the ground. Fair enough. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I enjoy it. I get a pop out of it.
Yeah, there's about, for as dark as this book can be, Ram V still keeps a bit of a sense of humor. Like, going back to the scene before this with Gordon, where he brings him into this cave, and he goes, not what I imagined. I thought it would all be bat-themed cars and computers on the wall, which is typically, where Batman hangs out. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then here, just turning into the bat symbol on here. It's just a cool moment.
Yeah, anyway, this is all a distraction on the front of the Black Gate so he can get in and get to the Maestro. He wants the Maestro to understand the music box because it controls the Asmers. He wants to make a counter box that will put the Asmers back down and put them to sleep effectively. And the Maestro's like, I'm going deaf, and you want me to like reverse engineer this and like make a whole like melody that'll do that. And Batman basically just edges him on by saying, hey, like Beethoven was going deaf, but he made one of his most famous pieces. Yeah.
I love that. I love this. Like, well, yeah, like, just because you're deaf doesn't mean you can't work with music, my guy. Like take the challenge. And the guy's like, oh, I love a challenge. The Maestro's like, all right, you got me. You've talked me into it.
Yeah. So, and then he asks Gordon, like, hey, find me the coldest part of like the underground of the city. And sure enough, we cut straight to like what appears to be where Mr. Freeze is currently hanging out. So it makes sense. That's what he was looking for. They have a bit of a fight because Freeze just immediately tries to fire his ice gun at him. But Batman tricks him with his cape, is able to pin him down, and makes it clear that he wants help. And he's like, I promised I'd leave you alone, and I will, but they won't. We have to deal with this. And goes back to that comparison that Gotham's his Nora, and, Freeze basically, like, okay, what do you need from me? It's quite kind of a quick convincing. And I kind of appreciated this because we've set the groundwork. We already had Freeze for a couple of issues, an arc or two ago. Like I say, this issue is very much him going around people that aren't typically allies and making them allies because, again, Gotham as a whole is going to resist. Like, even if the regular people have been taken over and the reality engines kind of like brainwashed them enough that they're just kind of ignoring and like thinking everything is awesome, right? Everything's fun when you're part of the team. Yada, yada, yada. The idea that all of the more colorful parts of Gotham, the colorful people in Gotham, are getting ready to wage war back again. So the big cliffhanger, though, is that the Orgums, like obviously they're using the reality engine, but the people that they can't convert with that, because some people are more resistant, they want to rule them with fear rather than So they've been using the carrot for most people, but they want some stick. They want fear. And then in comes Jonathan Crane, handcuffed, and they're going to use Scarecrow in some capacity. And given everything I've been saying about like all the villains, like kind of independently, essentially fighting back against this ultimately, and it being their own undoing, because they did, like, the arguments didn't predict that these people would all like battle against them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Scarecrow, when he has a bit of freedom at some point, is probably going to make a decision that's going to help everyone else out. Like, he'll probably do whatever they ask of him at first, but I can see there being a moment later on where he chooses to like turn the fear on them, or ultimately, once again, another villain in Gotham is going to be part of the reason why their plan does not work.
Yeah, their order doesn't seem to fully work because everyone in Gotham has like this false sense of freedom, right? All the villains want to do it their way, and that's what makes the Batman's Rogue Gallery work so well, right? Like, Scarecrow and Joker, seemingly on the same side, have two different MOs and two different ways of going about things. And here it's, Crane is still in chains and almost like a prisoner of theirs. So I can't imagine he's not going to, first chance he gets to try to, take this matter into his own hands and not do what the Orgums want, but instead what he wants.
Yeah.
But I did like that reveal. We came around and when they said fear and it's him and they have the Tynan, style from what was that event that they did?
Fear State.
Yeah, Fear State. His costume from Fear State, and it looks really good with the rest of the Orgums.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about this as well, is that it kind of feels like what they're doing with the reality engine's a more subtle version of what he did in Fear State, right? Mm-hmm. The idea that he has got a history of like affecting the entire city, and they're going to try and tap into that. And if he somehow turns fear gas onto them, will that just help Batman when Batman comes swooping in and he's a big scary bat, Mm-hmm. Interesting pieces at play here. So it feels like another really solid chapter, sort of building to whatever this finale is going to be that we're getting in like September, October. I can't remember exactly when that last number lands, but it's around there.
This feels like a follow-up from his Catwoman from Ram V as well, with him and what was it? Was it Alleytown? Was the name of the place where she took over all the crime and all of that stuff? It feels very much in that. It was her version of order, but unlike the Orgum, she was actually trying to make people's lives better, through her being the boss there. So I do feel like this is just a continuation kind of those themes, and now it's just bigger because it's Gotham and it's Batman and this new group and playing with the reality engine and whatnot. So, but yeah, the art here, a lot of fun, like the splash pages, like when Batman comes through the wall that Freeze built when he gets he just looks completely menacing and almost scary. So I think that looks good. And then you already mentioned the motorcycle stuff. I think that's a lot of fun. And I do appreciate that they held back and it wasn't this big splash page with the burning bat again. It's just on the top of the page, and it's just a piece of what's happening.
I think that was a choice they made because they'd already done the building thing the previous issue. So it's like, oh, this is diminishing returns because this isn't the big fist pump moment for the audience to say Batman's back and he's making a statement. This is just a distraction for this particular plan. So it shouldn't feel like as big of a deal, and it might have felt false if they'd done that. So I think that was a wise choice. Yeah, for sure.
Also, the way that they draw Batman when it's other people's point of view, his cape has these long tendrils to him. It's almost very shadow-like or, kind of out of ink. And it gives him an otherworldly presence, which is nice in a story like this.
Yeah, I mean, on the moment where he has the gas canister on the back of the bike, I think that 2-page layout is really good because you get the big, horizontal panel up top where he's sort of like jumping over the fence on the bike, and then just like sort of the mist sort of around him when he's in shadow and silhouette when the guards are pointing their guns at him. It's just a really nice page, really nice sequence. It makes you question, what's he doing? Like you get excited, like, what's he up to? A little bit of that. I think the winner though is that page where, because you get like just after the first scene with Joker and Catwoman, you get that 2-page. It's not quite a splash page because there's other panels on it, but the big central part of it's a big splash of him in his new outfit. But the panels at the top of the page are him kind of like prepping that outfit. He's wrapping like more traditional tape around his fists like a boxer, getting ready to fight, and he's painting on the symbol, right? He's got the red paintbrush out.
It is very Barbados, right?
Yeah.
So the big bat figure, but and you can kind of see the veins going out to other parts of the cape, and
That's
It
what,
looks,
I think,
looks really cool.
that's what I was saying earlier. It looks like veins. It looks like a blood system of some kind. So, yeah, no, ours pretty solid throughout.
Looking back, the guy in the gold, he almost looks like he has mummy wraps on him too.
I took that as like metal.
Yeah,
I can see the comparison though, but I took that as like a metal sort of coating rather than like.
That's true too. It looks like in the Francis Ford Coppola at the beginning, you see Dracula's armor. Kind of has those kind of ridges too. So, but yeah, when I was thumbing through just now, it kind of looked like a mummy. But now that I stop and look at it, you're right. It looks more like folded metal.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's pretty good. There is a backup. I did not read it.
I did.
Well, honestly, I think I incorrectly assumed it was like a part 2, so like another backup that I didn't read because I recognized the art, but I think they just had the same artist back to do more backups.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm not in love with this art. Is really the real reason why I didn't want to read it.
It's I like it in a small dose like this. I don't know if I'd need a whole comic of it because I don't think it would be as consistent. But yeah, so here, this is a story of Freeze coming up to the surface to meet with a lawyer that he had got to know from his early days. And you find out that she's now a lobbyist and she works in Gotham, and she gets all these little things done. Like she's meeting with an alderman to make sure that it says, I just had dinner with an alderman. He's all in, one more vote and you can start putting up those eviction notices. Right. And so Freeze comes to see her. Her name's Magda. And you find out that they had met because she was working as this up and coming lawyer and she was fighting for like the rights of people in Gotham. And so, Freeze in his first appearance, he's using an ice cream truck and going by the name Mr. Zero. And so the cops have him surrounded. He manages to escape and she lets him into her place where she's working. And he goes, well, why would you, let me in here? And she's like, well, look, Gotham cops aren't exactly the cleanest, and I don't know what you're up to, but you seem to have good intentions, because, he wasn't trying to kill the cops as he's going. And he notices in her, on her bookshelf, there's a bunch of books that Nora had. And so it gives him like this little, connection. And she invites him to go to this like rally to protest police corruption. And he goes, you share, this kind of fire that my wife had. You remind me a lot of Nora. And so he's here to get some help about the stuff that's been going on with the Orgums. He's almost trying to use whatever resources she has to maybe shape things differently. And that leads to another flashback right after the cataclysm. He saves her from some of Black Mask's men. And that, she's trying to do good help to get people organized, almost like a mutual aid type thing. Freeze comes in and takes out Black Mask people. And, they have this moment where she thanks him and, you didn't have to do this. And she goes, he tells her there's apartments over here. If she wants to stay and work out of kind of the area that he's made, he's all for it because he knows what she's about. And, she says that she's glad to see him, but she's tired of Gotham. She's done trying to help, and that she's realized in all of her years working here now that, if you're going to work in Gotham, someone has to, have your back, and there has to be a reason for doing things. And you see Freeze get visibly, like, disappointed. And she says that, yeah, she's going to go to D.C. now, be a big-time lobbyist. And she says it's a bear pit down there, but they're all young, and I'm just tired. And he goes, oh, okay, see. She goes, so do you have that for me? And she wants like a serum that's going to make her more youthful. And so he writes this thing down. He goes, truthfully, if she had realized what I'd given her was a Rich's brew of household chemicals, she didn't let me know that she knew. And that when he was a kid, he used to play with his dad's matches, and all he could focus on was freezing that fire, right? Because there was that energy there, and he wanted to keep it and preserve it. And it's a lot similar to that's why he, had that for Nora, and he saw this in Magda, and now that fire's gone. It's been beat out of her, and you see that whatever recipe he gave her has almost like an acid eaten through her face, and the story ends with she wasn't, she had that fire, it went out, my machine can still save the others. And so yeah, it ends with her on the couch looking like this sulfuric acid or whatever it was is eaten through her face. And yeah, very, very fun Freeze story. And I was wondering where it was going, because we know, like, I think Nora's back around operating, right, as Miss Freeze or whatever it was, Mrs. Freeze.
The last I remember, it's been a while.
Yeah. And so I was almost wondering if this was going to be his new, like, fixation, this Magda, and he's actually wondering if he should use his power, for good. And then when you see that he's disappointed in her because she's essentially sold out. She's no longer that, person fighting for the rights of the people underneath her in Gotham. He's like, oh, well, purity doesn't last. So very good story. I thought the art was fine. It wasn't, great, but that last page, her fate would have been, I think, a lot more, it would have hit harder if we were up close to it instead of as far away. Or seeing what happened instead of us just seeing the after effects. But yeah, real solid story.
Yeah. I don't think we mentioned, by the way, Batman wants Freeze to help, like, freeze the city. Well, that's why he goes to him. That's what part of his plan. I just wanted to mention that.
He wants an eternal winter, but I'm wondering if that also has to do with freezing the reality engine, and stopping.
Well, I think it's to do with interfering with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it. I just wanted to mention it since it popped in. I would never said what he was actually doing with Freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, in that case, we'll rate Detective Comics. What are you giving it, Matt?
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give this a solid 8.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with the 8. I think it's a solid next chapter in the run. It's a series of smaller moments that I think play into the larger themes wonderfully. But I wouldn't say it's like a standout issue where I'm like, blown away by it from, as it's like in its own sort of like build to a payoff or anything like that. So, that's Detective Comics. All right, The Flash, issue 9, legacy number 809, Cy Spurrier writing with Ramon, Perez, and Vasco Georgiev on the art.
There we go.
So I quit this with the annual because I read like half of that annual and then just couldn't do it anymore. It was pummeling me. So Matt, unfortunately, is flying solo on Flash now.
This is a little bit back more in focus because this issue mainly focuses on Barry being prodded on by the Crown of Thorns, and you find out that this crown is basically millions of other versions of anti-Flashes boiled down into essentially everything the Flashes fear. Right, so they say that the main 3 personalities that pop up in this crown are Thawne, right, Reverse Flash, Hunter Zolomon, who is Zoom, and then Jay Garrick's Anti-Flash, who I wasn't even I was aware he existed, but I didn't realize it was a big deal. His Reverse Flash was called the Rival, right, and so there are these 3 distinct personalities that make up the main crown of Thawne's, and they're essentially telling Barry that he's not good enough, and they're giving him all the negative thoughts that he won't be there in time. This is all worthless. But because Barry's a Flash, he keeps pushing on, right? So there's this really, like, when I say stunning, it's not exactly like the line work is fine. It's a little bit messy, but it's one of those Flash pages where it's almost a controlled chaos, and it's it's got Barry running across. So there's the multiple versions of him. But there's the one Thawne just like repeated over and over, and we're seeing kind of Barry's origin play out with his mom, and it's almost as if he's running from his past. And Thawne reminds him, or the Crown reminds him, that all things end. Barry keeps persisting because he knows that Flashes don't quit, and they try to make him attack people, but it's not working. But he ends up coming up on Iris and Linda with a knife, and he doesn't understand why he has the knife. So it's almost like little by little, the faster he runs, the further he runs, the more they get into him.
So they're in his head,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So they're in his head, but it's almost as if he's just perceiving them as negative thoughts and whatnot, right? To us, the reader, though, we're seeing everything play out. Like when the Fawn's talking, we're seeing the bubble come from them and stuff. So Barry finally runs himself out, but announces, like he's like, you don't rule me when he brings up Iris, because Iris is there with Linda at this park with the baby with Wade, and it's that at that moment Pilgrim comes through, and he's trying to get him and Pied Piper are there from I forget the name of their the time cops essentially. And they're there to get Wade, and Barry starts struggling, and you see behind Barry is this dark, shadowy figure, and right then and there, Barry sees Pied Piper, and he tells him to play the note, and when he does, come to find out, this dark, shadowy figure behind Barry is Abracadabra, and Abracadabra has been doing his his subtle advanced, science magic to make Linda feel the way that she was. Like she's disconnected from Wally. She's overwhelmed with the baby and all this other stuff. It's all been part of the plan to isolate Wally. So when she sees Kadabra there, she runs over and KOs him with one punch. And Pilgrim comes up to her and is like, hey, I know this is not going to be easy for you, but I need to take the baby. And they fight and argue, and eventually Pilgrim gets Wade because they believe that that's it. But Barry starts having a freak out where he's realized for a minute that this is the Crown of Thorns and that they have no power over him. So it's when they try to take full control of him. He goes, I knew this for a minute because you Reverse Flashes love anything, you guys, more than anything, you guys love to monologue. So this was just to keep him going until Barry could figure out exactly what was going on. And when Kadabra was revealed, that was the enough space that he needed to get this. So he essentially banishes them from his head with an embrace of Iris. While all of this is going on, Wally is still running around, and he's in the garden, and he keeps trying to space out the statues, but one statue keeps turning around. And do you want to take a guess on which statue that is?
In the garden?
In the garden, yeah. There's one that he keeps trying to turn away from him and isolate himself from, but there's one that won't let him.
And just remind me,
yes.
The statues in the garden, right? None of those are also people who are still out and about alive, right? It's all people.
No, they are. They're people that he knows. All right. So Linda's there, Barry's there, the kids.
Okay. Well, I mean, Linda would be the
friends.
first guess, I suppose. But
yeah. No, because sometimes there's no romance like a romance, right? So it's Nightwing.
Oh, he can't turn away from Dick.
No, he cannot. So, Dick can't turn away from Wally.
The Dick has eyes. It watches you wherever you go.
And Wally starts getting frustrated because, he wants, he needs that so he can, almost ascend to a higher train. And as he approaches that statue, he materializes in front of Nightwing on top of Titan's Tower. And he's like, hey, man, we're in bad shape. And he's talking about, the speedsters are disappearing and they're backed up against the wall. We really need you. You're my friend. Where have you been? And Wally comes up to him and is like, look, I can turn the other statues, but I can't. Why? I don't even know who you are. And so whatever's going on is starting to erase these big figures to Wally. But it's this conversation with Nightwing that kind of shocks him out of it. And he reminds Wally that you once told me that you changed the way you look at things. The things you look at will change. You've been doing everything fantastic. You're a great father. You're a great husband. You're my best friend. And I'm begging you, please, people are all that we have. right? It's our relationships that define us. And that coming from Dick Grayson, I think, is a real heavy line, because one of my favorite things I think that Jeff Johns has ever said about Dick Grayson was that he's not just the heart and soul of the DCU, right? He's kind of the cornerstone that it's all built on because of his relationships, right? And it's not just the Bat family and the Titans, but he has a mentor-mentee relationship with Superman, but also Superman's son, right? So it's the fact that it's these relationships that Dick holds so close. That's the thing that's almost snaps Wally out. And then he says, he looks away. Wally looks away wistfully and is like, well, I guess this is goodbye then. It's been an honor. And Grayson goes, you know what? I know I'll see you again. Count on it. And so that's the last we see of Wally here. So it's a bit ominous. Story ends with Jay, Wally's son, when Pilgrim takes Wade and reveals that he is in fact Wade to Jay, and that the villains have also tried to poison his mind. That's why he's been freezing the speedsters, because he knew it was the wrong thing to do, right? Because deep down, he's also, this member in Legacy, and he could not do it. And he goes, we're built different. And as he's talking with this, someone fires a rocket at Barry, because now he's stopped just enough to address everybody at the park. And he looks around and is like, good getting on me that you fired this rocket, and it stuck in kind of my wake. And he turns around and it's like this mech with a bat on it, but it's not quite any Batman mech that I'm familiar with. And Barry goes, Batman. And the voice from inside says, face to face it is. So I'm wondering if this is a Waller thing, right? That Waller's gotten a hold of some of the failsafe or whatever. Because it's not quite failsafe in look. It's this big, bulky kind of mech. And it's vaguely familiar, but I can't figure out why. So if you guys know, hit me up on the socials and help me remind. Because I've looked around and I can't figure out why it looks that familiar. So not only is Barry fighting, he's done with the Crown of Thorns and all of that type of stuff, but he has Waller up against his back. All while Wally is trying to figure out stuff with the Archangels and why exactly is he even taken off the board. So still a lot of story. The art's a little bit choppy towards the back. I think it gets to Georgiev. It looks a lot better than the Perez stuff. But what's great about the Perez stuff is it's almost a controlled chaos, especially when we get the pages of Flash running around with the Crown of Thorns in his head. It's a bit cartoony in places. But yeah. Also, Jay tries to he's able to use his Speed Force powers in order to get through to some of those spiders up with the time cops. And Jay's like, or not Jay, Wade's like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. What is going on? So I think the more that Jay hangs out in this, time point place, the more he's learning how exactly he's different from the speedsters, which is nice. It's kind of giving him his own identity that's not just a son of the Flash. But yeah, it's more solid than it has been. I feel like the story is a little bit more cohesive. But yeah, I still just need to know. I'm tired of reading Archangels, because every time I want to read it, I want to read it as Archangels, and I have to remind myself that it's not. But whoever these Archangels are, it's a much bigger, a much bigger thing than I think we're expecting. So I think there's some timey-wimey essences here at play, because they're removing the speedsters from everything, the whole manipulation of the Speed Force. But if that's the case, if when Wally uses the Speed Force or any of the other Flashes use it, it destroys things, then how is Jay able to kind of manipulate it to kind of bend it to his will with no issues? So there's something more afoot here. But yeah, really solid. I'm going to keep going. I know it'd be, no one else is reading it but me. So, but I've read through much worse Flash before and hung on. So at least this is interesting with the sci-fi plots. So with that, because the art's a little bit down, I'll give this a 6.5.
All right. So that'll take us on to the Penguin issue 10. Tom King writing with Rafael de Latorre on the art. So Penguin's really messing up his kid's criminal empire in this issue, which is kind of the main focus. And by the end, it seems like maybe his scheme with manipulating Batman, which Batman's like kind of aware he's doing, but he just doesn't know how to get around it yet.
She's like, no, he's using me, but how do I stop him from using me without letting him know that he knows that I know? Right?
But the ending of the issue kind of implies that Penguin pushes his kids so far, specifically his daughter. He's pushed her so far that she's going to Batman to be like, hey, like, this is what he's probably up to. Like, I want to help you take him down. So now Batman gets to pick his Cobblepot. He's got his choice of Cobblepots.
It's like father, like daughter, you know? Yeah. And King, I really appreciate that King, the more that we get to know the twins, because I wasn't that familiar with them. I don't think I read the story that introduced them, but to see that like Addison, his daughter, is much more like Oswald than we thought, and that Aiden is almost the son is almost the complete opposite, where he's much more of a physical threat, right, than a mental threat. So I do like that they're both distinct, and I appreciate that King showing us how like who Oswald sees as the bigger threat.
Yeah, so what we see like Batman going after like the chain of supply. There's this truck driver who transports, I don't know, probably drugs, maybe other stuff, to Metropolis from Gotham for the Cobblepots. And Batman has his whole big scary I am the night entrance in the back of the truck. You just hear the scream from the truck, which is a really good bit of art. It's a good bit of storytelling. It's a nice little page. The art here is pretty solid. As is the page where the daughter Cobblepot is hitting a golf ball into the mouth of a guy from Intergang. So basically, Intergang's the two they're sending these things to in Metropolis, and they've not received their shipment. So they've sent in this guy, and the Cobblepot twins just decide to torture the shit out of him and then try and feed him to Killer Croc. In fact, there's a kind of a running joke later that they've basically been giving so many bodies to Killer Croc to eat that Killer Croc started to turn them away and go, no, I'm full. I'm too full. I can't eat any more Intergang members.
Yeah, no more Intergang. I think I'm allergic.
Yeah, so I had a good bit of fun with that. So, yeah, like that kind of sets up what's going on here. You know, there's a bit more of Penguin's ex-wife getting involved, and like Black Spider is kind of like double crossing the twins, and that's a part of the plot here. But yeah, it's basically just this idea that Batman keeps interrupting all of the shipments, and even though the Cobblepot twins keep putting out more and more like couriers at the same time, thinking, oh, Batman won't be able to deal with all of them, he's somehow doing it because Penguin is basically saying, hey, they're just using the same infrastructure I had, so this is how I did everything. Here's all of the possible ways they could be transporting stuff out of the city. And there's a page where you see Batman chasing down a van, one where he's in like a bat helicopter chasing down a helicopter, one where he's on a jet ski chasing down a jet ski, one where he's on a train, so on and so forth. Like it's like a whole montage, if you will.
And it doesn't get too repetitive. We're getting the point that, you know, another day, another shipment stopped. The Batman's been very, very busy.
It's smart storytelling. That first one with the guy in the truck, you give that a couple, 2 or 3 pages to really set up the context, give him the big entrance, and then with the montage, you just get the sense, oh, he's just doing that to all these other couriers, and you know, they've got their own challenges, but ultimately it's the same sort of thing. So, yeah, basically, Black Spider passes on what the Cobblepots are doing, and Penguin's ex-wife's like, okay, I'm going to shoot you to make this look like you, you know, like, because he was meant to courier or something. I'm going to shoot you to make it look like you didn't give it up. And she shoots him in both the arm and the leg to make it look convincing. So even she's a bit on the ruthless side. But, you know, so it really paints this idea to the point where Penguin's daughter comes and visits him in the park. And a lot, you know, obviously the book has that thing where it's everyone else's narration, right? So it starts off with Batman, there's a bit of Penguin's ex-wife. Penguin's daughter, particularly in this scene where she comes to see Penguin in the park, basically talks about how Penguin, when she was a kid, would abandon her and her brother to go and hang out with the pigeons in the park instead, and that she hates that she got jealous of a pigeon. So she snaps a pigeon's neck in front of Penguin, and Penguin plays it cool. He doesn't even react to it. He acts like a loving father, and like, basically says, "Oh, don't worry, like they're this intergang and whatnot. Like they're not going to kill you. Like you're my daughter. You're resourceful, and I'll never let them do that. Besides, I'll have you killed long before they ever get to finish the job." And he just says that casually at the end of the scene. It's so funny. It's darkly funny, but it's funny.
You don't have to worry about them because you're not going to survive me. And just the way that he says it so calm and almost like with a smirk on his face on the panel underneath there where he says, "I hope you have a pleasant day." It's just like, oh man, this guy's nuts.
Well, yeah, that was my favorite thing. Is like, so Batman has there's like a quiet night in Gotham, and the reason why it's so quiet is that basically Penguin's daughter's so pissed off after this meeting. She's like, okay, every single like henchman we have, let's send them in to kill Penguin in the park. But Penguin seemingly was waiting with the 4th of July and the help, and Black Spider tipped him off again. So we cut to the park, and he's just going to kill all of their goons, except his own son, who was the muscle who was sent in as the leader. He's like, okay, I'm not going to kill you because you're my son, so you can go, but I'm going to kill all your people. You understand that, right? Basically, like, when it gets down to this, like, obviously he hits his son a couple times with the umbrella. He's like, most parents want their children to surpass them, right? The idea that they'll do even better than they did. But I always accepted that you were always my inferiors. You were always my lessers. So, yeah, like, just to deal with that, basically.
So I haven't seen any of Succession, but I feel this is Succession.
Yeah, I've not seen that either.
Down. Yeah. Boiled down to its purest form is like, none of you will ever be better than me.
I always knew you'd be beneath me. That's the line he says after he's hit him in the head with his umbrella for like the 5th time. So very good. So the final scene of the book is now having lost all of her muscle. She can't even afford to pay Intergang what they owe them now because all their shipments have been stopped by Batman. The final scene is Batman showing up to give her a light, which is how the issue started, was with him reluctantly giving a light to Penguin. And now she's wanting to work with Batman to deal with him. So, and she even says, I underestimated him, and I'm pretty sure that you've underestimated him too. So let's see what we can do about it. But she does say in her narration here that she's not defeated yet. She's just desperate, and that's why she's going to Batman. So it does feel like for the first time, Batman may get a leg up on Penguin in this story, and we'll see how that plays out. But I think this was a very good constructed issue, and that it had like a big point it wanted to get across by the end, was like, grinding down the twins so the daughter would want to go to Batman by the end to deal with them. And I think it successfully did that. It felt like this gauntlet throughout, where they were being hit hard, their criminal empire was being chipped away at by Batman. Penguin's basically using Batman to ruin their lives. And Batman kind of knows that, but he still wants to take them down because he's Batman. So... but yeah, I thought it built up nicely to this point where it bookended the issue on kind of this narrative, bookend. So, yeah, it's very good, and the art is gorgeous every time. Like, obviously Batman's not the main character of this book, but it does a really good job of making him feel imposing and like intimidating every time he's there. Back of the truck, even at the end, the deep blacks, the inks, face is always in shadow, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, the coloring's also doing a lot of work here. Because it sets the tone and the mood. So like when we look at the park, everything looks normal, natural lighting, right? But then we get to Addison and Aiden, and she's flipping the table, and everything's like in shadows and moody, and it's the opposite, and it contrasts because it's dark purples and blues and all of that type of stuff, and almost like Penguin's casting a shadow on his, on his kids.
Yeah, and it's almost like his scenes are all brightly lit, because he's at least good at keeping up the appearance. Although I do think the scene where he's in the toilet and his ex-wife's narrating about how, he's taking a long time in there. It's almost like some of this is harder or getting to him. He's just good at not showing it, but... He's
rattled, and he's not going to show it,
So yeah, that's a nice touch. That 2-page spread when we cut to the park and like, all of the twins guys are all just lying dead or soon to be dead.
Including Black Spider,
including
which is
Black
keeping
Spider.
his cover.
Yes. And Penguin's ex-wife's just sitting casually on the bench, like nothing's going on around her. Yeah, like just very entertaining, very well constructed. It makes its point by the end. Yeah, Penguin's been a really solid, surprising, consistent book. You know, I don't think I'd have ever predicted that I'd be so into a book called The Penguin, but here it is.
Yeah, and it's not exactly what I would expect too, because it's not exactly like this. It's almost like a crime saga, you know, like because we know why he's doing it, right? To get his latest wife, you know, she's in peril, so he has to dip back into his old life. But you know, it's kind of about legacy as much as about everything else too, because it's almost like his kids. He thought his kids could handle it. That's why he was able to retire, and now he has to jump back in because clearly they can't, you know. But they seem to be doing everything fine until, you know, the government had Ozzy get back in and around them. So, you know, I'm just wondering if this is him just justifying everything again.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why he's doing it is obviously got nothing to do with him just wanting to take everything back. He seemed like he was happily retired at the start of the book. So, yeah, I mean, the question is that now that he's doing it, is he getting a taste for it now that he's doing it again? I think that's the question we have to ask. Also, shout out to the colouring as well on the page at the end of the park scene where he's beating his son up with the umbrella.
Black and red.
Because it goes to orange and it goes to red for like the strike in that page, and then he lifts it up again and it's back to orange. And then that final strike, it's just a blinding sunlight, and they're in silhouette, just with a bit of red blood coming out from the sun's head. It's really nice. Yeah,
the color says Marcelo Maiolo, so prime work.
It builds. It builds. It makes every hit feel bigger than the last hit, and that's pretty good storytelling. So, all right, what are you giving the Penguin, Matt?
I'm giving this a 8.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. I think as much as I like Detective this week, I think this is just a little bit more fulfilling as a full issue.
Yeah.
So I'll agree with 8.5. I know I'm being bored and just picking your same rating.
That's okay.
There we are. All right. So that'll take us on to Green Arrow, issue 12, legacy number 345. Joshua Williamson writing with Sean Isaacs, Eric Gapstur, and Phil Hester on the art.
Yeah, so you won't have to copy my one here because you don't read this anymore because you're smart, unlike me.
And I got out very early on this one.
And here's the thing. The problem with Green Arrow is it's not like bad where I'm like, this is, you know, offending me because it's that bad. It's just, it's so middle of the road that like nothing happens. It's kind of ill-defined on what the book's supposed to be about, right? So this whole thing, the whole series started with Ollie coming back through time, and he had went to Waller to separate from his family because he feels like all he ever does is put them in danger. And now it's led to Merlin taking control of the Heroes in Crisis thing, Sanctuary, and using different versions of his family to fight Ollie. And we get a recap of Ollie's origin and about how everything he's done, he's always done alone, right? So when he went to the island, he had to survive alone, and you know, and that's what he did. But you know, as much as he felt like himself there, it's his career's been defined by everybody else that he's met since, and you know, he includes Merlin in that, and all the people that taught him to be an archer. And it does this really cool thing where it gets to that page where he's on the island, and it looks like he's gonna send a flare because he's kind of wrapped up in like scraps of clothes, and he has the long beard and long hair, and he has this fire going, and he launches an arrow into like the sea. But as he's reminiscing with all these people, they're in silhouette with like stars, like they're almost like, it's not quite negative space, but they're taking up this space almost in his head that they're almost bigger than himself, despite, you know, sharing the same panel with him. But they're all people that we kind of recognize, right? It's his son, it's Connor, it's Roy, it's Hal, right? You can kind of cut the figures from there. And then it picks back up. So that all that art was the art by Phil Hester. So it's that real blocky, you know, late 90s Green Arrow. And then it picks up with the fight scene. And to be honest, this is the majority of the issue, and it kind of falls flat. If this is supposed to be the climax in everything that we've gotten from the story, it's not handled well at all, because essentially it's Merlin saying, like, you'll never defeat me. I have your family against me. And Ollie going, well, this was all part of the plan, because if these things that Waller put in my head can separate us, it can also bring us together, which then leads the rest of the arrows to show up, even though he told them to stay out. They end up providing enough cover, especially with Dinah, which she gets a great entrance with the canary cry. And Ollie ends up besting Merlin in they both fire at the same time. Merlin misses, Ollie hits, and it kind of fries the cyborg part of Merlin. As Merlin's on the ground, Diggle shows up and is like, we have some unfinished business. They do the Ollie and Diggle do the Predator meme with the hands, which I always think is funny when it shows up in comics. And he's like, your plan worked, the signal to Waller used to send me here, let me track you, so we're good. And the rest of the family go back to the island, kind of have like a little vacation, like a decompression. So we have all the Arrow characters. Roy finally gets to see Leanne, which is a nice moment. Isaac's art here makes Leanne look a little bit smaller, right? Because she's supposed to be like a late teens, as we've seen shoes, but it's just a perspective thing, I guess. They hug, and they kind of just drop the sanctuary mask there on the beach. And we get a montage of the family hanging out with Dinah coming to Ollie and, asking what's next. And he's like, well, why are we worrying about it? I have everybody here with me now. This is kind of all I've wanted in life. And he tells her, I think that I had to get lost so that you guys could find me. And it's kind of this nice little moment, but it's been like 3 or 4 issues to build to a family volleyball game, with not much else going on. I'm still confused about the Merlin plot. Like, I know he just wanted to be the evil man that ruins Ollie's life because he felt Ollie ruined his life, but this book felt like it had a point of view that's now been lost. And, I'll probably end up keep reading it depending what goes on with the absolute power. But it's feeling like there's not a point to it. I don't know what Josh Williamson what else he can say about Ollie at this juncture.
I mean, keep in mind it was meant to be a 6-issue mini, and then it got extended. So I wonder how little he had planned for past those 6 issues, maybe.
Because this all felt, these last 6 issues felt that they could have been like 3 or 4, and here it's very anticlimactic. It's the Arrow family comes in to help, and that gives Ollie just the edge enough, which I guess you could say, that Merlin has nobody. His son's not around. They introduced Tommy Merlin in then that last issue where we got all of his machinations, but it's the fact that Ollie has all these people to lean on. That's where he gets his strength from, which, could have been said in less issues, I guess. But this book has had so many ups and downs, because the couple before this, when it was Connor and Ollie teaming up to take out Onomatopoeia, I thought it was really strong. It was Williamson writing kind of to his strengths. And here, when he's just kind of trying to make it up as he goes almost, it just, it feels like it's in a holding pattern. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how clustered these come out. If I'm going to keep going, like if it's on a very busy week, because I think I looked forward, and it looks like it's just going to tie into the next event. And if it's going to end up being like that, I don't know if it's a book that I have time for anymore. All that said, I'll give this a 6 out of 10.
Okay. Power Girl issue 9. Leah Williams writing with Eduardo Pansica on the art. Matt's on his own again.
Yeah, that's all right. Now this one, I feel it falls into the same category as Green Arrow, where it started strong, and I knew what Leah Williams was trying to do with Paige and Power Girl and defining her. However, with all of the, not even the events, it seems to be circulating whatever Superman's doing, and it's telling that story. So in an effort to make Paige stand on her own, they kind of handcuffed her to the ongoings of the Superman family at this point, which is kind of a disappointment. But this issue is pretty entertaining. It picks up with Paige meeting Crush and realizing that she's Lobo's daughter, and Crush being like, "Wait, Lobo was here? What do you mean? There's other Zarnians? We're the last ones." And as they're having this conversation, there's this creepy bald guy, kind of Luthor-esque, peeking around the corner, and it's using the same dialogue boxes as the, what was that called? Like the Kryptonian Matrix thing. I forget the name of it. But it's poking around saying if it should intervene and help Paige or just stay in the shadows, and it decides to stay in the shadows. So Crush introduces Paige to the rest of her like little biker gang, and we find out they're the Holiday Girls, who are the concept. I don't know if it's been used in a while, but they are almost the sorority that Diana falls in with when she had first came to Man's World with Etta Candy, and that they seem to know Etta, and that they're on their ride with Crush. And that she is an initiate and almost like to their biker gang. So it's a little weird that Etta Candy's, Holiday Girls are a biker gang, but we'll just, accept that and move on. So they go into this bar to try to figure out everything that's going on. At the same time, the Zarnians had taken that nano, gun from Brainiac, and instead of shrinking things, it starts taking technology. And yeah, you remember in Transformers, Pete? How well do you remember the '07 Michael Bay Transformers?
I mean, we did them all last year on Ace, so probably better than I should.
So you remember when they used the Synergon, thing to bring new things to life, and they all become these little evil, these little evil devices.
Oh yeah, the Allspark turns an Xbox 360 into a little robot. There you go.
Yeah. That's what this nanogun kind of does. It brings technology to life in, kind of maximum overdrives it. So one of the Zarnians shoots this big, like, I'm guessing it's supposed to be like an animatronic robot of a burger boy, a Big Belly Burger. It brings it to life, and it starts causing chaos through the city. It takes, they shoot like an arcade, and it turns all of those arcade devices. So think like the Time Crisis gun or the Guitar Hero guitar. It also turns these into nano blasters. And they start using this to just cause chaos across Metropolis. Paige and the Holiday Girls and Crush start to intervene. There's a fight in the bar where it brings the cash register and the soda gun that they fill up the things with, the carbonated gun, to life. And it starts to not go in their way when one of the guns, a stray shot from the gun turns the Holiday Girls motorcycles into like this blob of just twisted metal. And it ends up sealing the bar, and it seals Paige and Crush away from the Holiday Girls, effectively turning the Holiday Girls into hostages. While they're locked in there, Paige and Crush take out that giant Burger Boy animatronic, and they end up getting into the bar using Paige's heat vision. Crush goes in there, sees that they have the Holiday Girls as hostages, and basically the club leader tells her that she's a prospect. She's the club president. You have to retreat. As Paige is holding the door open through the heat vision. So Crush ends up leaving, but not before the full motorcycle monster thing closes again. And they essentially go out and about that Paige figures that, well, while they have the hostages, they can't go anywhere either. there's no way out. So they can go out and try to handle the ongoings of the city and try to clean it up a little bit. Because Paige knows what, how they're going to take care of this. As they fight off the, what was this thing called? It was the lion guy, but it's not coming up now. He ends up having some of the Brainiac material starts to malfunction, and it starts going haywire. And the lion guy, the Kryptonian Matrix thing, essentially it boils down to him saying that he'll not allow any harm come to Power Girl because that privilege is mine. So essentially he's going to side with Power Girl and crush and, to take out the Zarnians so he can eventually take her for himself. Pretty solid issue. I wish it would get back to Paige kind of define herself. I like the little 2-issue with Kara that was done in kind of the more fairy tale style. And here, of course, it's a tie-in, but it just feels, like I don't say it's a waste, but it just doesn't feel up to par to where the book has been. The art's pretty decent by Pansica. So, but Pansica's just, a journeyman kind of artist when it comes to this. So the designs look good, the layouts look good. But yeah, there's not much flash to it. So, I'll give this a 7 out of 10.
All right. Well, one book left to talk about, and it's a Patreon book. Every month at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can make me read a book on the show in one of the higher tiers. This episode, I am reading American Vampire Second Cycle, Issue 8. So, the last issue ended with the cliffhanger of Skinner seemingly turned into a big demonic-looking vampire from his bite from the Grey Trader. And the other agents that are with him, because remember, him and the two guys are split up from the girls because they're going to try and get into space to try and steal the photograph stuff from the satellite, whilst the girls are off trying to find this secret weapon that might be able to kill the Grey Trader and the big bad and all that. So the first several pages of this issue are action heavy. It's these various monsters attacking the agents, including the guy with the mask who actually gets both his arms cut off in this fight scene, which stops him from being able to go to the moon later on. They do mention that because of his species, that they can reattach his arms and he'll be fine in the long run, but it's going to take some time. Something like what, beetles are going to reconnect him or something. I don't know. I'll get to that page later. But basically, they're getting their asses kicked by these monsters, and Skinner, big monster, red monster Skinner, has got one of the agents by the neck, and they're kind of pleading with him, like, Skinner, if there's anything else of you in there, you're one of the good guys. And obviously when they said that, I'm like, well, technically, I wouldn't call him a good guy per se, but he's supposed to be an ally right now. It's actually when one of the other monsters tries to boss him around and says, go on, cowboy, kill him, what are you waiting for? It's almost like being bossed around by someone's what kind of made Skinner take control again a little bit. He's still a monster right now. He's still in monstrous form, but he drops the agent and then goes and starts stabbing the crap out of the other monsters. So fun time. The coloring here, it's all sort of reds and oranges in the background as if there's fire everywhere. But once Skinner makes his turn here and he sort of jumps through at the monster and goes through a window, they end up outside. So everything goes from being all these ultra orange backgrounds to blues and light purples, and it really changes the color scheme when they come out. And he throws one of the monsters into a car. He grabs the motel sign off the motel and slams that into one of the monsters. It's kind of like a Hulk scene in a lot of ways. It's probably the easiest comic book thing I could compare it to. But it's,
big monster Skinner. He smash.
But he kind of passes out at the end of the scene, and that's kind of how it wraps that up. The two ladies, Pearl and Felicia, are in the caves, and they're with the Gollum type character. Not Gollum as in Lord of the Rings, as in the stone Gollum type character. Right. And they're going to meet a military general, an old ally of Felicia's, who's going to let them into the military base because they believe they can find the Izaakse, I think was what the secret weapon was called.
Yeah.
Izaakse. Maybe there's an extra K in there that I was missing. So they're on their way there. Skinner wakes up in like a hospital bed, and it turns out that they're staving off like the transformation because he's back to being like, well, I can't really say human form, but you know what I mean, back to regular vampire form. And they're staving it off by giving him an IV drip that's got liquid gold in it. They point out it's the most expensive IV drip in the history of mankind, but it's basically making him sick, which is stopping the transformations from happening because the transformations thrive on a healthy body. And this entire scene when they're talking to him and basically telling him, hey, you're the one that needs to go up to space because the other guy's out of commission. There's like monkeys like behind the glass in the next room. And at one point, one of the monkeys like sort of wags his finger at him. But Skinner's basically saying, go to hell, I'm not doing it. Why should I do it? Just shoot me in the head. But Calvin pleads with him and says, look, well, the other guy first says, hey, I think there may be a cure for this bite. Like there's these this old group of vampires or nobles that might be able to do something about it. And Calvin kind of backs him up. So this is kind of what convinces Skinner to at least maybe agree to do this. This kind of comes crashing back though later on when it turns out that Calvin's going up with them into space, and as soon as like they shut off the comms with Skinner, he talks to Calvin on his own and says, "Hey, right, so after you've done the thing, you're going to space Skinner Suite." So they're planning to double cross him because there is no cure, there's no solution for this bite that he's got. So they're just going to ditch him in space. Of course, knowing Skinner's luck, he'll somehow just come back down and re-enter through the atmosphere, and maybe even this vampire bait will keep him alive somehow. But the guards at the military base don't want to listen to the general to let in, because they're basically posing as like flight instructors or something like that to get into the base. The guys don't really buy it though, so they release some gas from the stone guy which turns them into stone. Right? Probably not permanent, I assume, otherwise it'd be a very vicious way to kill someone. But they basically just get frozen in stone from this gas grenade. But they find a pile of dead bodies and they're like, shit, the tongue are already here. The tongue being like the army of monsters that are probably coming for this secret weapon. However, this is an issue. We're teasing the betrayal of the good guys on Skinner. We're also going to have the betrayal of this military general on the two ladies, because it turns out he's already a vampire. And he's lured them into a trap because a bunch of these vampires are here, or monsters are here, and they all have like military uniforms on, indicating they've all been turned from whoever was at this base before. So it's a fun page though, because they look kind of cool and spooky. I think the monsters that were fighting at the start of the motel were also the tongue. But both Pearl and Felicia are wearing like gas masks because they were throwing in more of these like sort of stone grenade things. But yeah, that's the big cliffhanger. The final page though is a shot of the rocket taking off to go to space with Calvin and Skinner on it. So yeah, it's another solid issue. I think one of the things that's really stuck out about these last few issues is it's been very focused. Like they came up with a goal in issue 6, and 7 and 8 have been very much about just continuing those stories about the two teams and how they're trying to achieve those goals. Which I'm not complaining about. I actually like that, because I think one of the faults of maybe a couple of the issues in the first arc, as much as there was some really good stuff in there, is that sometimes it kind of felt like, okay, where are we going now? This feels nice that there's kind of a goal in mind, and I'm sure there'll be swerves, there'll be things that don't quite go where I expect. It feels like there's a good drive in this arc so far. The art, per usual, from Albuquerque's, doing all sorts of great stuff, especially when we're dealing with the darker colors, and they're fighting they're coming across vampires in the shadows, seeing the pile of dead bodies with the muted red blood kind of smeared across the ground, simple stuff like that. Yeah, characters also have a decent bit of personality as well, all down to even the monkeys that are behind the glass at one point. So yeah, dung beetles are what are putting the masked guy's arms back on, for the record. So fun. So another solid issue. Probably another solid 8 out of 10. I think the actual start of the arc is still my favorite part of it, just because when it introduced all the space stuff and it introduced the idea of like fitting in a lot of this vampire lore around real world history, and the idea that the Cold War is really on the brink because they might nuke this place that has the great evil underneath it and all that. But like the plan so far has been fun. It's just not been as exciting as initially learning about all this stuff. So I'll see if it kind of is able to ramp that up again in the coming issues. But as for now, it still looks fantastic. It's still the issue still paced very well, and it's been very consistent. So yeah, 8 out of 10, I think, is where I'm standing on that. So that'll take us on to the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and we'll rank our books, however many there may be for either of us. So panel / moment of the week, Matt, you got a pick?
So this one had a couple. There's a couple from Tech that were a lot of fun. Flash had a couple big ones, including the Crown of Thorns. Trying to talk to Barry, where he's finally like, "Look, you can have my head, but you can never have my heart." I thought that was a good one. Mine's probably going to be from Penguin, and it's going to be the entire sequence with when they try to take him out at the park. It's not even really a sequence; it's kind of the after. But it's the page that has everybody on there. You have the Force of July, the Help. But his son is on his knees in front of Oswald and just asking, "Am I a disappointment?" And I just thought that was a whole mood.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of spoiled for choice in the two books that I can pick from.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to go with Catwoman whispering in Joker's ear, and just like the way she's kind of like pivoting it to like, "Oh, you care that Batman's back. You might get the spring back in your step. You've been lost without him." Her playing on that card, I quite like. So
yeah,
I'm going to pick that. There's a lot of good art moments I could have picked though as well. So as for cover of the week, basically it comes down to a few detective ones for me. The main cover is really good. There's a Fernandez variant, which is very pretty. I'm going to go with Steve Beach though, who I was picking a long time on the action variants, but there's a detective cover here. It's just a close-up of the side of Batman's face, but he's sort of gritting his teeth and there's like rain dripping down the side of his face. And the red city behind them. It's just simple. The mask itself kind of becomes the negative space, which is kind of cool as well. So just simple and effective. But I mean, honestly, that's like 3 out of the 4 Tech covers or out of the 5, sorry, are all excellent covers. So you're spoiled for choice just for that book alone. What's your pick, Matt?
Yeah, so there's a Flash cover I like that's from Matt. Hold on, where's it at? Yeah, it's Matt Taylor. And it's a bit trippy, kind of to match the vibe of the book, but it's got it looks like Wally or Barry running through, a bunch of other like kind of frames of people, and there's a lot of streaks, but I really like the colors. It's a lot of reds, purples, and that. I think that looks nice. But my pick is going to be from Power Girl, and it's a David Talaski variant, and it's got Paige and Streaky up like in space. There's a satellite by them, there's the earth beneath them, but just the way that it has all the blues surrounding, playing with a lot of negative space, and just the whole vibe of it looks like Silver Age, but also modern at the same time. So it's a nicely composed image, but that's mine.
Yeah, I heard the word streaks and streaky in there, which I believe is what Connor calls his underwear when he's taking them off at the end of the day.
You couldn't resist, could you?
No, I couldn't.
No.
The art of the week is what we're on next. We got Matt.
Man, it's between Penguin and Tech, right? Which I know those are your 2 books anyways.
Yep.
They're both strong for their own reasons, but I think Penguin just edges it. Just edges Tech by a little bit.
I think Penguin just about wins it as well. I think maybe just a little bit. I won't even say more because Tech's really consistent, but I think I just like the faces a little bit more in Penguin, right? The overall art in Tech is great, but I think I just like the facial expressions a bit more in Penguin, so I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
All right, rank your books, Matt. Go.
All right, so 1 will be Penguin, 2 will be Tech, 3 will be Power Girl, 4 will be Flash, and 5 is Green Arrow.
Number 1, Penguin. Number 2, Detective. I'm done. So there you go. I'll tell you now what's coming next week from DC Comics. Hopefully I've got more than 2 books. And spoiler, I do. Because next week we have Batman 148. We got Poison Ivy 23. We have Birds of Prey issue 10. We got Shazam issue 12. we got The Boy Wonder issue 2, which you did say you were going to catch up on, Matt, for
Yep, I
issue 2.
have. It is downloaded. I got it digitally, and I just have to read it. So
Cool.
Yeah.
We also have Kneel Before Zod 6, Suicide Squad Kill Arkham Asylum 5, My Adventures with Superman issue 1, Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 6, Scooby-Doo Where Are You 128, and DC Pride, A Celebration of Rachel Pollack issue 1. So yeah, not a busy week by any means, but I have doubled my book count from 2 to 4, so that's something.
Yes.
At least. So we'll see you guys for that next week. So very good. But otherwise, that pretty much brings an end to the show. A lighter week after a couple of 3-hour or thereabouts episodes. I guess it is nice to have a shorter one. But yeah, let us know what you thought of this week's books in the comments and all the usual stuff. Of course, you can support everything by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and help keep the lights on. But otherwise, that is the show. So, and we're at that time of year where every so often there's just something flying about in the house, and it catches my eye, and I'm like, I want to hit it.
Your cats don't take care of that?
They do not give a shit. They'll look at it for a second and go, oh, that seems like a lot of effort. I'm going back to sleep. So anyway, yes. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. This has been episode 410 of the Comics From The Multiverse DC Comics podcast. We do appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next time. Keep reading comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.